We have children that can't write. So they're able, I've seen 3-year-olds, able to pick up any device and go to YouTube, but they can't say their alphabets. They have absolutely no idea what that looks like. They can't write it, they can't sound it out. So I don't like watching any child with a device.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on When Neighbors Talk. I am your host, Dana Tucker Davis, and here is where our community will come together to discuss the current events, the ways that they impact us all, and solutions to these problems. Welcome to the neighborhood, and let's get into it. Today we will discuss how it takes a village to raise a child and the difference between past generations and the current generations. Today we are going to really cover the development of Gen Alpha and how we can help them develop. Our first neighbor is Miss Cheryl Jones-Allie. Miss Jones-Allie, will you introduce yourselves to our neighborhood?
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Cheryl Jones-Allie. I'm the founder and executive director of the Village Tutorial and Enrichment program. I'm from Atlanta, an educator of over 20 years, after school program over 10 years, and an advocate for children learning in our community.
Wow, so it seems like everything you're doing is centered around children. That's great.
Everything.
That's great. So we're going to talk about generations. And so just to be clear, not giving away my age, but I believe that I am in Generation X. I came out of high school in 1987, so I was around 18 around that time period when I graduated. So is that roughly correct that I'm in Generation X?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, so what is Generation Alpha?
Generation Alpha are those children that are born from 2013 to 2024. It is the generation in which we are now seeing quite a bit going on with them. It's the children that we're working with right now. And there have been a lot of studies that have been written over the last 5 years about their development.
So now I'm a Girl Scout troop leader, and I am also over the youth development for my organization. We have 3 levels. So we have kids pretty much from middle school to high school. And then, with Girl Scouts, they go from kindergarten as a daisy all the way up to ambassadors, which are seniors in high school. So we cover the gamut. So I've had a lot of interaction. I will tell you, as a former latchkey kid, because Generation X, we pretty much raised ourselves. I don't care what anybody says. And so being a latchkey kid and being very independent, just knowing, be back home when the lights come on. Mama didn't know how far away I was from home on my bicycle or whatever, what woods we were playing around in. And so we can't do that with the generation now.
No.
I think that there is some resilience, but how we reach them and how they process things is different. Do you think that's changed with the babies that have come after COVID?
What I've noticed is, and we've had conversations about the children that we are working with.
Okay.
And we do so every 2 or 3 years, because one of the things as far as being an educator, we always have to go back and learn the latest trends on what we need to do to make sure that children are mastering reading and math and science. With that, we have to be open and flexible with how they're learning. One of my epiphanies was that children aren't able to problem solve. So as I go back and develop lessons and activities for my students, whether it's during the day where I teach school or after school, I have to make sure that it's something that they can think about. Each year, I'm being met with more and more resistance. If we give them a problem, they can't think about it critically. And I knew that there was something that needed to change when I've had older kids in Generation Z and children in Generation Alpha ask me, what do I do with trash? So I said, okay, we have to come up with something different. So other community members that I meet with, we're saying that we need to develop programming. We need to come up with ideas. We need to go to different churches and just talk with people out there to say, hey, this is something that we need to address. Yes, we need to make sure they focus on reading and math. Yes, they have to master those state standards. But in order for them to do that, they're lacking not only social emotional skills, they're lacking academic skills. So we're trying to develop ideas and work together, collaborate on what we could do to close that gap because it's widening right now.
I can say that the generation where my kids came from, I have a 23-year-old and 18-year-old. They watched a lot of shows on PBS and Nick Jr. or whatever, and so those shows taught patterns. Those shows taught social interaction, and I don't want to go into the show's names because I'm not endorsing any shows, but I will tell you that they would have on the screen different things. Now, they would have adventures, and they would have little assignments or things to solve, and sometimes it was trash. So they teach them simply how to put trash in the trash and what to do with it, how to create a pattern. If you have these things, and so you had that. But I sat down to try to watch some of the television shows now, and it seems to be more geared toward movement and dancing, and not necessarily some of those undertone skills that were evident maybe 15 years ago. I think that's playing a role as well, because they can sing the alphabet different ways now with all these new shows, but I don't know that they get the phonetic sounds the same.
No. Phonics was taken out of school curriculums up until this year. It's being brought back. But because phonics has been missing for so many years, all of those children that have passed through the schools are lacking those skills. One thing that we do notice that children need interaction face-to-face. So a lot of them are used to watching something or listening to something. That is hurting them more than actually being in front of a person. I know that we do rely a lot on PBS programming. We may rely a lot on whatever website, whatever platform these children are able to go to, but it's weakening them. So one of the things that I try to do, and I try to stress this point, is that even with smaller kids, yes, you may use some technology. We are moving into a technology society. We're already here. But in order for you to be able to understand it and where it doesn't make you weak, learn how to build the programming. Give me an idea what it is that you want to do. I ask kids all the time and try to set a challenge and tell them that animals, plants, elders, babies in our world needs help. What is it that you have inside of you that you can use later on and develop that's going to help someone later in life? They're not able to understand that right now. Sometimes it gets them thinking. We have children that can't write. So they're able, I've seen 3-year-olds, able to pick up any device and go to YouTube, but they can't say their alphabets. They have absolutely no idea what that looks like. They can't write it. They can't sound it out. So I don't like watching any child with a device.
Well, we've become dependent on just to make the kid quiet or settle down, get quiet or settle down. We give them a device. And so I think that's true. They also took cursive writing out. So we did an exercise this past Saturday where we said it's about economic development, but the exercise was to write a check. We gave them fake checks. So they had to write it out. So writing out the words for $100,000 you want to pay yourself, and then writing the numbers was a big exercise for those kids. I'm talking about high school kids and middle school kids. And then the very challenge, the signature for their name on that check. They had to take the assignment home
and learn how to write cursive.
And we had to give them instructions on how to sign your name, what a signature looks like. So while they may not have checks in their generation like we did, but they need to know how to sign their name. So we use that activity. I'm going to read this to you. It says, during 2016 to 2017 and 2022 through 2023, when Gen Alpha demographics spanned infants to 10-year-olds, the prevalence of childhood anxiety or depression rose from 9% to 13% amongst the kids aged 3 to 17. So pretty much this is saying that anxiety and depression increased in these kids from 9% to 13%. Have you witnessed that, and do you think that statement is true?
It is true. I feel that a lot of that comes from our children having the freedom to explore various platforms that are not meant for them to look at. I remember at 10 that I feel like I could take care of my little sister, I could help make a sandwich and just do those things that I was asked to do. I didn't have anyone looking at me or making an opinion about what it is that I did. If it was wrong, then I had a parent that would come home and say, this is how you change what you did. So the next time I was able to go back and do what I was asked by my mom, I could do it differently. Our children are allowing these platforms and these social media sites to, I guess, confirm for them how well they're doing something, or give them an idea of what it is that's right or what's wrong without them even having the experiences. It's decreasing their empathy for people. It's taking away a lot of that feeling of being sympathetic towards something that happens. When they're explaining to me, and I ask them, tell me what it is that you guys are working on now. What's the most popular site for you all to go on? It has something to do, unfortunately, with violence. And I asked them, well, can you tell me something different that we could do? I think that if you put that in your eyes all the time, it kind of gets into your heart. So the biggest piece for me, when they're around each other, they don't express a lot of empathy. We have to teach compassion right now. And it actually has to be a lesson on what that looks like. We have to give them ideas of using kind words. They're not able to brainstorm a lot of those words for us.
So I agree with you, because we did some TikTok dances to express a point with my Girl Scout troop, and in doing that, they were so, let me see what it looks like first, and it was crazy because they sit on those devices and they see how the comment section, the people are attacking. You have hair strands loose, or you don't have designer this, or they pick at the comments, pick at them, and they see that, and so perhaps that is also contributing to the anxiety, being very anxious about how every little thing they do. Whereas when we were kids, you could go and learn a dance and mess it up, and everybody laugh, and you do it again, and you keep doing it because you're in person, you're engaging one-on-one, and the whole world isn't giving feedback on what 6-year-olds or 7-year-olds are doing. But we find that now with the increased use of social media apps or whatever, that is it. Also, I remember going to the movies. You had to have an adult with you for PG-13, R-rated or whatever. I know they still have the ratings, but I don't know that anyone even cares. And so these kids are watching things and watching movies that they're not the intended audience for, and I think that's causing anxiety and perhaps depression as well.
It does.
But what impact did the COVID kids have in this need to be in person versus on a tablet, or versus virtual or remote?
COVID, to me, brought an awareness to a lot of inequities that exist in several communities, whether they were affluent or lower income. It depended on the involvement of the parent at this point. I was working with some students who came from well-to-do families. The parents had never made time to sit with them. So they didn't know what that looked like, to sit with your child and listen to what it was that they were learning. It was on the schools to do so. I would look at some of my students who were coming from low-income households, who were trying to find a secure place, a safe place, just to listen to their teacher talk. So even though they were coming from two different sides, that parental involvement was clear. Having those resources that they needed to make sure that that unprecedented time was met with their needs was clear. For COVID, a lot of people, of course, we had to depend on technology at that point. Again, I am a huge fan of technology. I love how it just changes so many places and things, and how children are able to look at art. But I still make sure, and I would ask if you could just disconnect, because having a child just look at the screen all day, I felt like it would just give them a headache. It would hurt me. So I would ask them, just let's disconnect. I would challenge my families and anyone I could touch. Look, everybody's using these online stores. Order a board game and let's have game night. So sometimes my homework assignments would be for families to engage, because the first epiphany, like I said, I had was parents not being involved with their children and what they were learning. We became so dependent on technology and those platforms to teach our children until when it was time for us to go back into the building, most districts were still dependent on those platforms being used to teach children.
And
So when we would come through, they would come and observe and say, are they learning from this particular site that we paid for? I said, there's no need. I'm here. And I can do this work better than another platform instructing them to do it. They can hear it from me.
So I read recently, and I don't have the citation to it, I read recently where a lot of school systems and districts are pulling away from technology in the classroom, going back to pen and paper, just because that's going to force some of the skills. And I'm not sure if that's coming to Georgia or is anticipated, or people are lobbying for that. But I think that is a way to address what you're talking about. And now they're pulling back from some of those things to make them pen and paper, even the tests, just so that they can get used to doing those things that we take for granted because we learned it growing up. So now I want you to give me your top 5 positive actions that a parent or a community member can take to get the Gen Alpha and Gen Z a better developmental experience. So you already told me one. I think one is pull back and limit technology. But,
Yes.
And I don't know how you're going to rank them, but just give me the top 5 and tell me which one you think is the most important.
For families to connect with each other, most certainly disconnect. There is a large school district right now that initiated an idea this year of disconnect to reconnect. And that means just to have conversations with your families, your children, whoever is in the home with you. I do am huge on family night.
Okay.
That is something that we need to do. Whether it be something I've taught families how to make an activity or come up with an activity where you can sit with, your kids and just have conversations. I've had parents over the years who make sure that when they're having dinner at night, and I think that was one of the things that we kind of got away from, sitting together as a family. No, we have to get back to sitting at a table together as a family. Sometimes, and I just sneak it in with, if I'm working after school or during the day, and just ask, put this question at your dinner table tonight. What is something that you did to put a light in someone else's life today, whether it be big or small, just to get some conversation started? I've had parents over the years who were very honest with me about what it was that they could do or could not do to help their child. So we need to have more conversations with our parents and make sure they understand that it's a safe place to talk, to get any help, whether it be an idea or some support that they could take back home to help their child. Because what I do, is stress to my families is that we're working together on, we're partners. So I will have, ideas, and I have my ways of doing things, but I want to make sure that your child sees that we're working together to make sure that they're better. And I tell my children that I work with, your job is to be better than me, and your job is to help someone else. So with that, if I see that there is a deficiency in any of those social, emotional skills, we go back and we work on it together. I am big about going outside. Putting on a coat when it's cold is fine. But a lot of our children are afraid to go outside. When they go outside, they don't want to touch the ground. They don't want to pick up anything because, I watch them, I don't want to touch it. We have to let them go back outside and force them to go outside and say, come up with something. Let's play.
So it sounds like you have disconnect from the technology,
Mm-hmm.
connect to your family through dinner, family night, dinner together, and conversational engagement. And then I have on here conversations with parents regarding assistance and their level of need that will help the children and address those deficiencies. And finally, go outside and touch some grass.
Just go outside. Just go
Okay.
outside and play.
So those are the 5 things. So now, emotional intelligence. What can we do to help develop emotional intelligence in these children that are coming up now?
For that one, we're going to have to start small
Okay.
and build. The first is I was introduced to an idea from an assistant principal, and I take it everywhere.
Okay.
And it is called RAC, for Random Act of Kindness. And it is just a piece of paper that says you have to take this paper with you and pass it on with an act of kindness. And I watch children and adults try to develop an idea of what that act of kindness looks like for them. We can't always scrutinize where I may go way overboard with a kind gesture and someone wants to do something small. Kindness is kindness. So we have to start there and challenge everyone to think of a way to show kindness. When we're having conversations with our children, now they love to argue. And their idea has
Argue with
to
the
be
parents?
argue with each other, argue with parents over their ideas. So if we're having a conversation and you don't agree with what it is I'm saying, you want to argue with me. Our society has gone into that right now where you must agree with me or there is a fight. No, it's your opinion, your idea, and it doesn't have to mirror mine. And I don't have to feel the way you feel. You have to learn to respect it. And that's what's missing now. You don't want to respect my idea of what I think any piece of life should be.
So, RAC, Random Act of Kindness.
Yes.
You think that will get us to a better place with emotional intelligence?
It's a start.
I'm going to incorporate that into my daily life. That's a lot that we've learned and talked about today, and I thank you for coming to our neighborhood.
Thank you
You
for
have
having
been
me.
so wise with what you're telling us about these children that, some of our viewers can relate and some cannot, but I think that after today they can kind of like, now I see what is needed. So we want to thank you. Now, can you tell us how the neighborhood or neighbors or viewers can contact you?
Yes, I am on social media, Facebook, Instagram, as well as the Village Tutorial and Enrichment Program online.
And I have learned a lot about the babies and their developmental issues, and hopefully we can right that ship and and take off into the next biennium.
And I think a lot of us need to understand too that some of the ideas that work for us as Generation X still works.
Good. Okay, so join us next time for our conversations in the neighborhood. I thank you for joining us. I am your host, Dana Tucker Davis. See you next time.